Stand by, Paul.
Okay.
And 15 seconds.
Okay.
We can hear you rustling your papers, Paul.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Stand by, sir.
Okay.
So that angel story was just an analogy.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Got ya. Paul, you travel all over the place. I understand that you've also been to Area 51, Skinwalker Ranch. What have you discovered about Skinwalker Ranch? Because everybody talks about it these days.
Right. I've been to like 59 countries, and now that I'm retired, I haven't really been traveling very much. So it's like the travel bug is gone. Yeah, but Skinwalker Ranch. When I went there, I was hoping to camp out there for 7 days. And I didn't go to the actual Skinwalker Ranch, but I went to the valley where Skinwalker Ranch was. And the whole valley has paranormal activity. So when we arrived, this big storm hit the area. And we're trying to set up the tents. I was falling into the mud and everything else. I had 2 investigators with me, and the 2 things that we experienced that was kind of unnatural is the sky seemed like it would kind of open up a little bit, and there was this energy ball lightning. I've never seen ball lightning in my life. And it shot down, hit the ground, and exploded. And the next thing that happened is we heard this strange screeching sound. And I'm retired from the Department of Fish and Wildlife, so I'm very familiar with various type of animal noises. And that was something like I've never heard before. And I had the recorder on, but the rain was so heavy, all you could hear was the pitter-patter of the rain. The next day, one of the investigators had pneumonia. And that cut the whole trip short. So from Utah back to California, brought her back to California because she was so ill. And that was my adventure at Skinwalker Ranch and experiencing those 2 things.
Based on what you've learned about Skinwalker Ranch, why is it so filled with all these different paranormal activities, the sightings of different cryptids, UFO anomalies? What do you think the reason is, Paul?
I believe that Skinwalker Ranch is on a ley line. And a ley line is a energized area which it seems like it attracts UFOs and UAPs because it's sort of like a fueling station. They can gas up with this energy, and that energy can possibly cause portals. I mean, my dog's for some reason so excited. And
Yeah, I have that effect on dogs and
so anyway, they had a situation where one of the investigators, before the investigators that you see now on the History Channel, Bigelow's group, one of the scientists said that he saw a portal in the sky open up, and from that portal, a Bigfoot type creature came out of that portal and scurried off. So there's something definitely going on over at Skinwalker Ranch with the UFO activity, and I think it's all connected. You had the poltergeist activity. You had something that looked like a dire wolf that they shot at and it walked away. The UFO activity, UFOs going into the mesa and coming out of the mesa. I mean, yeah, I believe it's all connected, and it has to do with something like a ley line, because you seem like wherever there's ley lines, like Stonehenge, I've been to Stonehenge, and Stonehenge attracts UFOs, crop circles, and everything else. Ghostly activity, people see ghosts and shadow people. So yeah, I think it's all connected.
But a lot of these sightings, Paul, I think you would agree, are self-manifested by the people who go there expecting something to happen. Something does happen, you get the pareidolia effect, and they truly believe they're having a paranormal experience when they actually aren't.
Or also, too,
Okay.
people can produce a tulpa. And the author of The Shadow, only the shadow knows you're
right.
from, yeah. His friends and family were going into his home, and they would see this character with a black fedora hat, a red scarf around his mouth, and a long nose, and a black coat, long coat. And they went up to the author and said, "Yeah, there's a guy walking around with a black fedora hat with a red scarf." He goes, "What are you talking about? That's the character I created. That's the Shadow." And the author was so much thinking about this character that he created, he projected it from his mind and made an entity that was moving about in his own home. So I think a lot of times too, people, just like what's that character now? Slender Man. People now are actually witnessing Slender Man because they think about it so much. And this is something that was created right off the internet, but now people are actually seeing Slender Man. So I think a lot of times people, the mind is great power, and I think if they think of an entity so much that they can actually project it with their mind.
What about crop circles? We don't hear a lot about crop circles anymore. We don't hear about cattle mutilations as much as we used to. What happened? Did the aliens stop the cattle rustling business? And when it comes to crop circles, has the fun in making these crop circles gone away for people who tried to perpetrate this hoax?
As for the crop circles, there was a crop circle recently discovered in England. I think something like almost like 3 weeks ago. So, and it was very intricate type design. As for the cattle mutilations, yeah, you haven't really heard too much about it. So, maybe possibly the extraterrestrials who are doing these cattle mutilations, if they are, maybe completed whatever they were trying to experiment on with cows, and maybe that's why it's you don't hear too much more about it. And as for the crop circles, what I can never understand is if these aliens are actually creating these crop circles, why don't they just write it off in English so we can all read it and understand it? And why do these puzzles in some of them they do binary code, and then after they interpret this binary code, it doesn't even really make sense. So I just don't understand. They're like playing a game with us, or what's going on?
My question is, why would an alien entity want to have anything to do with this planet? And because we're really screwed up.
Oh, absolutely. And you hear about in the past how UFOs went to Montana and shut down the nuclear missiles out there.
At Malmstrom Air Force Base.
Yeah, and so now with all these threats from Russia and North Korea and China, these nuclear threats, will the extraterrestrials step in and shut it all down?
That is a very good question, and I've asked that question to many people, and nobody knows that answer.
Yeah, I mean, and if they have something at stake here on Earth, where they have maybe their own underground UFO bases, and they're scared that these nuclear bombs, if they are detonated, will destroy their UFO underground bases, will they step in and say enough is enough and stop all the nuclear threats by shutting down those missiles?
Well, maybe the underground bases, are the fallout shelters for the ETs.
Could be. Yeah, very well. Could be.
What is the hottest topic these days in the paranormal community, Paul?
I still see just a lot of stuff about ghosts, and I get hit up by a lot of ghost teams, and they go, Paul, can you listen to this EVP? Paul, what do you think about this photo? It's like, oh my God, I get so bombarded with this stuff, and I tell them, I said, look, just put it up on HPI International on Facebook. I'll look at it when I have time, but they seem like they're still very much interested on EVPs. What is it saying? And this photograph, do you think it's an apparition, Paul? It's like, I don't know.
Well, a lot of these pictures that I've seen, it's open to interpretation.
Exactly. And like one case that I had is in Del Paso Heights. And I took a picture in the backyard, and I got these two orbs, and I called them designer orbs because they had these intricate type designs inside. And they're like snowflakes, not everything's different with each orb. So these two designer orbs, I enhanced it, and what I saw was dog faces in the orbs. And so I went back to the occupant, the client, and I said, what is it you have in your backyard? And she says, well, I have orange trees. And I said, no, not the orange trees. What else do you have in your backyard? She goes, I have two dogs buried back there. I go, okay. I said, why don't you take a look at these photos and tell me what you see? And all of a sudden, she starts crying. I said, what are you crying about? And she goes, those are dog faces, and those are my two dogs buried in the backyard.
Oh my gosh. Paul, stand by. We've got to take our final break. What a great story. Explanation, Paul Dale Roberts is my special guest. If you'd like to visit Paul's Facebook page, facebook.com/Paul.D.Roberts. Paul.D.Roberts.545. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and you're listening to us on the X Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, and on Classic 1220 CFAJ, classic1220.ca in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. Alrighty, this is the final segment. Wow, this hour's gone fast, Paul.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Alrighty, so stand by. We're just going to flick a switch here. And away we go. Stand by, pal. 15 seconds. 5 seconds. Barb McGuire's Eve of Destruction certainly says it all. Are we on the eve of destruction? God, I hope not. This planet is so precious, and the people on this planet are so precious that we just have to get our thoughts, our acts, our actions together. We've got to stop all this turmoil. We're all on this planet. We all bleed red blood, to my knowledge. I could be wrong. So why don't we just make things work? Forget about the religious strife. Forget about the differences that, they're there. Let's respect them. I remember growing up as a kid in Montreal, where we lived in Park Extension, and it was a very multicultural area of Montreal. We had, I had Greek friends, I had Chinese friends, I had Muslim friends, I had Christian friends, I had Catholic friends, I had Jewish friends, people, friends from Italy, friends from all over the world. We got along. And I'm trying to remember, to the best of my ability, where did it all go? Where did it all end? What happened as a society that, we're creating war after war after war after war? In my opinion, Paul, number one, get rid of all the different theologies. Number two, get rid of all the politicians. What do you think, my friend?
Absolutely, I agree. I think if you did that, the world would be a better place.
A lot of people still talk about Area 51, Paul. But, once again, just like with Bigfoot, just like with all the other topics we've discussed, especially alien abductions, people aren't really getting into the gist of Area 51. The mainstream media has stopped picking up any stories about Area 51. Has the fad passed away? Or is the information and talk about Area 51 being suppressed?
I think we just need another whistleblower, and we need a whistleblower who will provide proof. So that's your problem, is you have these whistleblowers and they say, well, I saw this and I saw that, but they don't show any proof. Then you have Jaime Mawson in Mexico, who provides, proof, these alien bodies, and Jaime has such a bad reputation of bringing out phony stuff, fake stuff, and these aliens are not the typical grays that everybody describes. So you have people like that bring out fake stuff, and it puts us back on the blackboard all over again, and we got to start all over.
It seems like at times the paranormal community is a lot like a three-ring circus, or what was it called? I'm going to get in trouble for this one, but the freak shows.
Yeah.
You know, the fat lady, the three-headed goat, and so on and so forth. How is this affecting the credibility of the UFO community, the paranormal community at large?
I mean, it provides a bad light, and I mean, you know, I'm retired from Department of Fish and Wildlife, and I've talked to a lot of hunters and fishermen, and a lot of hunters and fishermen have told me stories about how they have encountered Bigfoot. Well, I could go and do like a whistleblower type thing and say, yeah, okay, I've talked to hunters at Department of Fish and Wildlife who told me that they saw Bigfoot. I had this one hunter who told me that his friend actually shot at a Bigfoot and it blew up into sparks. So, but there's no proof. It's a story that was told to me that I'm telling, but I'm not showing you any proof. And that's what the problem is with these whistleblowers. They tell good stories, but where is the proof?
Whatever happened to the whistleblowers that were at the congressional hearings not that long ago? Once again, it was all big hype prior to the hearings. After the hearings, nothing.
Exactly. I mean, you don't even hear nothing about it now. And also too is like whatever happened to the metallic objects that they shot out of the sky. They told you about the Chinese spy balloon, but what about that metallic object? I think it was flying over by Lake Michigan that they shot down from the sky. Did they ever retrieve it? What was it? You don't even hear any more news about it.
You know, if it's a matter of national security, I can fully understand the suppression of the news in that case. Because the last thing we want to do, especially in these times, is let the people who are not friendly to democracy and to our countries know that we do have different assets. And that I've been told by members of the military that what we see and what we actually have are two different things.
And one thing, Rob, when I was working as a 97 Bravo intelligence analyst in the military intelligence for the U.S. Army, and when those 6 photographs came in, and I've talked about this before, when those 6 photographs of UFOs came in my mind, I really wanted to scoop them up or make copies of it and show the public. But I was so afraid if I did something like that, I would wind up in the stockade. I would wind up at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. So I didn't do it. But I told the story. And I guess with a lot of whistleblowers, it's very hard to get that evidence because the military has such a tight grip on you. And when they have a tight grip on you, you just can't get away with anything.
What about all these military people who come out, the astronauts that come out, and talk about these encounters and what they've seen? How can we truly believe them if, once again, they never bring any evidence with them? You know, for example, Paul Hellyer, our former Minister of Defense up here in Canada, he talks a mean game, but nothing. Absolutely nothing, and he's passed on, and I'm certainly not trying to pick on a person who's no longer here. I respected Minister Hellyer. I met him in person a number of times, but I was one of the first ones to say, "Where's the evidence?"
Yeah,
well, there is none.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and the only evidence that I've seen, let's say, with astronauts, as if they get a picture, a photograph of a UFO that's following their ship. And that's about it.
What's your opinion on the people who claim that NASA closes down the links to the ISS, the live feed links to the ISS, when NASA detects a UFO in the vicinity and is worried that the ISS feed will actually pick it up, so they shut down the feed?
Oh, I absolutely believe that. They don't want to disclose that information. I thought we were getting close to disclosure, but I guess I was wrong.
You and everybody else, my friend.
Yeah.
We thought these congressional hearings were going to produce the smoking gun, and that would vindicate a lot of people who, over the years, have suffered a lot of ridicule from skeptics and non-believers. But all that did, the lack of continuity and the lack of the